The encrypted message arrived at 3:17 a.m., blinking onto Elon Musk's holoscreen with a soft chime. He had been awake, as usual poring over schematics for Neuralink's next-gen brain interface, when the notification appeared. It was an invitation, but not the kind sent to ordinary billionaires. This one bore no corporate letterhead, no ostentatious branding, just a set of coordinates and a time. Tomorrow, midnight, Penthouse 100, Aurora Tower, Manhattan. Below that, a single line. The future is decided by those who dare to claim it. Musk smirked. He knew exactly what this was. For years, whispers had circulated among the ultra-elite about a shadow consortium, a gathering of the world's most powerful figures, the kind who moved markets with a phone call and shaped nations over cocktails. They called themselves the Pantheon, an exclusive club where old money dynasties and Silicon Valley's new gods colluded in private, far from the scrutiny of regulators or the public. Musk had never been invited before. Some said it was because he was too volatile. Others claimed the Pantheon feared his influence. Either way, the omission had been deliberate, until now that he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. The timing was suspicious. Tesla stock had just surged past $1 trillion. SpaceX had secured exclusive rights to lunar mining, and his recent acquisition of a major media conglomerate had sent shockwaves through the industry. They hadn't invited him out of respect. They'd done it because they could no longer ignore him, and that made it dangerous. His security team had already flagged the location, Aurora Tower, a sleek, black glass monolith owned by a shell corporation linked to a Swiss private bank. Untraceable, unassailable, the perfect place for a quiet war. Musk tapped his desk, summoning an AI assistant. Run a full threat assessment, he ordered. Assume hostile intent. The AI processed terabytes of data in seconds, financial records, surveillance logs, even satellite thermal scans of the building. The results were interesting. The guest list was a who's who of global power. Media moguls, defense contractors, the shadowy financiers behind 3 recent coups. And then there was him, the outlier, the disruptor. His phone buzzed. It was his oldest confidant, a former SpaceX engineer who now headed his covert R&D division. "You're not seriously considering going?" the message read. Musk typed back one-handed. "They think they can predict me. Let's disappoint them." By the time his Hyperloop train shot toward New York, Musk had already planned his move. He wasn't walking into that room to play their game. He was going to burn the board. The elevator to Penthouse 100 was soundproof, bulletproof, and, according to his scanners, lined with signal jammers. No recordings, no transmissions. The door slid open, and the hum of low conversation stopped dead. 20 pairs of eyes locked onto him. The air smelled of aged whiskey and expensive cigars. At the head of a black marble table sat Ludwig von Strauss, the reclusive German industrialist whose family had bankrolled wars and revolutions for 2 centuries. "Ah," von Strauss said, his voice like gravel. "The outsider arrives." Musk didn't smile. "You called. Here I am." A tech CEO, whose name Musk didn't bother remembering, snorted. "We were just discussing how your Mars delusions will bankrupt the space industry." Musk tilted his head. "Funny. I was just reviewing the contract your company lost to SpaceX yesterday." He pulled up a holographic projection, a classified Pentagon memo awarding his rockets exclusive military launch rights. The room tensed. Von Strauss raised a hand. "Enough. We didn't invite you for petty squabbles." He leaned forward. "We're here to discuss containment." Musk's eyes gleamed. "Ah, you mean my containment." Silence. Then, from the shadows, a voice Musk recognized, the CEO of the world's largest data mining firm. "You're destabilizing too many industries too fast. It ends tonight." Musk reached into his jacket. Instantly, bodyguards stepped forward, until he pulled out not a weapon, but a neural chip. "You're right," he said softly. "It does end tonight." He dropped the chip onto the table. It lit up, projecting a live feed of every stock trade, every backdoor deal, every black site R&D facility the Pantheon thought was hidden. The room erupted, but Musk was already walking toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan skyline glittering below. "You wanted to contain the future." He turned, meeting von Strauss's stunned gaze. Too late. Outside, the first of his Starlink satellites blinked into alignment overhead. A silent, unstoppable constellation. The game had just changed. The silence that followed Musk's display was thick enough to choke on. The Pantheon's members, accustomed to dictating terms, not having them thrown back in their faces, exchanged glances that flickered between fury and disbelief. Ludwig von Strauss, his gnarled fingers tightening around the edge of the marble table, was the first to recover. "This is a breach of trust," he hissed, his accent sharpening with each word. "You walk into our domain uninvited. Uninvited." Musk interrupted, raising an eyebrow. He tapped the holoscreen still floating above the neural chip, cycling through classified documents, offshore accounts, even private communications between two oil barons plotting to sabotage Tesla's lithium mines. "Your invitation was a leash. You didn't bring me here to talk. You brought me here to warn me." He smirked. "So consider me warned." A chair screeched as the media mogul, Richard Kingsley, owner of the largest news conglomerate on the planet, shot to his feet. "You think this is a game? We made you. Public perception, market manipulation. You're a meme, Musk. A meme we allowed to become a billionaire." His face was flushed, his tailored suit straining with the force of his breathing. "One word from me, and every outlet under my control paints you as a lunatic." Again, Musk didn't flinch. "Funny you mention memes." He swiped the air, pulling up a live social feed. A viral hashtag was already trending. Hashtag Pantheon leaks. The neural chip hadn't just displayed secrets, it had broadcast them. Kingsley's face drained of color as he recognized his own private correspondence about burying stories on political bribes. You rely on controlling narratives," Musk said, stepping closer. "I rely on making narratives irrelevant." He turned to the rest of the room. "Your wealth is built on scarcity, on gatekeeping. But the future—" He gestured to the window, where the Starlink satellites now formed a visible constellation. "The future is abundance." The defense contractor, a square-jawed woman who had built her empire on drone wars, leaned forward. "And what happens when abundance meets resistance?" Her smile was knife-thin. "You're not the first idealist who thought he could outmaneuver us." Musk met her gaze. "Resistance requires leverage. Let's test yours." He tapped his wristband. Instantly, every screen in the room, even the secure ones embedded in the table, flashed red. A robotic voice echoed. "Autonomous drone fleet offline. Manual override disabled." The woman's composure cracked. "That's impossible. Your security is 5 years behind mine," Musk said. "Your drones just became paperweights." He turned to the rest. "Who's next?" A tech oligarch, the one who had sneered at Mars, slammed his fist down. "Enough. You're not walking out of here after this." He nodded to the guards lining the walls. Musk didn't even look at them. "Your men are wearing neural-linked earpieces. My AI just hijacked them." As if on cue, the guards froze, their expressions going slack. The room erupted into chaos. Von Strauss roared for order. Kingsley was screaming into a dead phone, and the defense contractor was frantically typing into a tablet that now displayed only a single word. "Owned." Musk walked to the bar, poured himself a whiskey, and took a sip. "You wanted to contain me?" He set the glass down. "Now you've got my full attention." Outside, the first headlines were already breaking. The Pantheon's secrets were spilling into the world, and Musk, he was just getting started. The moment Jake Reynolds stepped out of Diane Harris's office, the atmosphere in the Tesla factory shifted palpably. A charged silence hung in the air, punctuated only by the distant whir of machinery and the occasional hushed whisper as employees pretended to focus on their work while stealing glances at him. Every step Jake took toward Elon Musk's office felt like walking through a surreal dream, his pulse pounding so loudly in his ears that it nearly drowned out the rhythmic clanking of robotic arms assembling car frames in the distance. The Slack channel, which had been a frenzy of memes and nervous jokes just minutes earlier, had gone eerily quiet, as if the entire company was collectively holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Even the usually bustling cafeteria was subdued, with clusters of engineers and production line workers murmuring over coffee, their conversations laced with speculation. Do you think he'll get fired on the spot? What if Elon laughs it off? What if this ends up on Twitter by noon? Each theory more dramatic than the last. As Jake neared the glass-walled office, he could see Elon inside, now fully awake, leaning back in his chair with his phone in one hand and a half-finished cup of cold coffee in the other. The photo was clearly visible on Elon's screen, and for a heart-stopping second, Jake considered turning around and bolting. But before he could retreat, Elon looked up, his sharp blue-gray eyes locking onto Jake's through the glass. There was no anger in his expression, no visible irritation, just an unreadable calm that somehow made the situation even more terrifying. The door was slightly ajar, and Elon motioned for him to enter with a casual flick of his wrist, as if this were just another routine meeting. The office was exactly as Jake had imagined, cluttered with prototypes of Tesla's latest hardware, whiteboards covered in equations and schematics, and a disorganized pile of Mars colonization notes stacked haphazardly in one corner. Elon didn't speak at first, instead swiveling his chair slightly to face Jake fully before setting his phone down on the desk, the infamous photo still glowing on the screen. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until Elon finally broke it with a single, unexpected question. How long was I out? Jake blinked, momentarily thrown. Maybe 20 minutes, he managed, his voice coming out hoarse. Elon nodded, rubbing his temples. Huh, felt longer. Then, to Jake's utter disbelief, the corner of his mouth twitched almost like he was fighting a smile. You know, I've been telling people for years that sleep is optional. Guess this proves otherwise. Jake didn't know whether to laugh, apologize, or brace for the inevitable but. Elon leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. Here's the thing, Jake. That photo. It's already everywhere. Internal servers, private chats, hell. I've gotten 3 texts from SpaceX guys asking if I'm okay. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. And now I've got PR breathing down my neck, worried this'll leak to Bloomberg by lunchtime. Jake's stomach dropped. Sir, I didn't mean for it to blow up like this. It was just a dumb joke for the team, I know. Elon interrupted, waving him off. But here's the problem. If I fire you, it looks like I can't take a joke. If I ignore it, it looks like I'm weak. And if I laugh about it, the board starts questioning whether I'm taking Tesla seriously enough. He paused, studying Jake. So here's what we're going to do. Jake braced himself. You're going to help me turn this into a win. Before Jake could process that, Elon grabbed his laptop, spun it around, and pulled up a mock-up of a Tesla-branded energy pod, a sleek, futuristic nap capsule with the tagline, "Recharge like the boss." We've been sitting on this design for months, Elon said, grinning now. And thanks to you, we've got the perfect viral moment to launch it. Jake could only stare, his mind racing. Was Elon Musk pivoting on a humiliation, turning a joke at his expense into a marketing opportunity? Then Elon's expression shifted, just slightly. Oh, and Jake, next time you catch me sleeping, maybe just nudge me instead of snapping a pic. The tension shattered. Jake exhaled, a disbelieving laugh escaping him. Noted, sir. As he left the office, the factory's usual noise rushed back in, but now it was laced with something new. Curiosity, relief, and beneath it all, the unspoken realization that maybe, just maybe, the man at the top wasn't as untouchable as they'd all thought. The moment Jake stepped out of Elon's office, the factory floor, which had been buzzing with nervous energy, erupted into a cacophony of whispers, stifled laughter, and outright cheers. The tension that had gripped the building for the past hour dissolved like smoke as word spread that Jake hadn't been fired, that Elon had laughed it off, and that, impossibly, the whole thing was being spun into some kind of corporate rebrand. Employees who had been nervously refreshing Slack now crowded around Jake, clapping him on the back, demanding details. What did he say? Is he pissed? Did he really just turn this into a nap pod ad? Their voices overlapping in disbelief. Across the room, Diane Harris stood with her arms crossed, watching the scene with a mix of exasperation and relief. She had spent the last 40 minutes fielding panic calls from PR, legal, and even a board member who had somehow already heard about the incident. Now, As she watched Elon stride out of his office, his usual restless energy restored, she realized the crisis had been averted or, more accurately, hijacked and repurposed into something else entirely. Elon didn't address the crowd. He didn't need to. Instead, he walked straight to the nearest whiteboard, grabbed a marker, and began sketching what looked like a modified version of the energy pod he'd shown Jake, scribbling notes about materials, dimensions, and inexplicably a built-in espresso machine. The employees closest to him exchanged glances. This was classic Elon. A crisis became a tangent became a project, and suddenly, the entire company's priorities realigned around whatever had captured his attention. Within minutes, a team of engineers had been summoned to discuss feasibility, while the marketing department scrambled to draft a press release about Tesla's new commitment to employee wellness. Meanwhile, outside the factory walls, the internet was already doing what it did best. Though the photo hadn't officially leaked, blurry screenshots had begun circulating on Reddit and Twitter, accompanied by wild speculation. Is this real? Did Musk finally collapse from overwork? Fake, probably a deep fake. Memes sprouted like weeds. Elon photoshopped into history's most famous napping scenes, the Titanic door, the Lion King's Pride Rock. Elon as a sleeping cyborg mid-recharge. Elon curled up in a Doge meme with the caption, "Much sleep. Very tired." The hashtag #NapElon began trending in San Francisco, then nationwide. By midday, even mainstream outlets like CNBC and The Verge had picked up the rumor mill, running speculative pieces with titles like, "Is Elon Musk's work ethic sustainable?" And Tesla employees report brutal hours. Is the CEO feeling the strain? Back at the factory, Jake's phone was blowing up with notifications, texts from friends, LinkedIn connection requests, even a DM from a Wall Street Journal reporter asking for comment. He ignored them all, still processing the whiplash of the last few hours. 1 minute, he'd been sure he was about to be escorted out of the building by security. The next, he was being hailed as the guy who'd punked Elon Musk and lived. It was surreal, but beneath the relief, a nagging thought lingered. What happens when the hype dies down? Elon might have turned this into a win today, but the man was famously mercurial. Would he still be laughing about it tomorrow? As if on cue, Elon's voice cut through the noise. "Jake, get over here." He was standing near the prototype bay, surrounded by engineers, holding up a 3D printed model of the pod. "We need a name for this thing, and since you're the reason we're building it, you get first dibs." The room fell silent, all eyes on Jake. He hesitated, then grinned. "How about the Musk ZZZ?" Elon's bark of laughter was answer enough. The blackout lasted exactly 17 minutes, 17 minutes of pure, ungoverned chaos. Air traffic control systems froze mid-transmission, leaving thousands of planes flying blind on automated protocols. Hospital backup generators failed, their emergency firmware corrupted by an override they couldn't trace. The New York Stock Exchange's quantum servers, designed to be unhackable, simply stopped, erasing billions in phantom trades that Roth's algorithms had tried to execute in desperation. When the lights finally flickered back on, the world had changed. The Pantheon's scattered strongholds. The realization hit like a physical blow. They no longer controlled the systems they'd built. Ludwig von Strauss's private jet, en route to a Swiss vault, was forced into an emergency landing in Newfoundland. After its navigation systems locked him out, the onboard AI cheerfully informing him that autonomous flight paths are now reserved for verified SpaceX affiliates. Richard Kingsley's media empire was in flames, both figuratively and literally, as his broadcast towers melted down from a cascading overload traced to a single corrupted update pushed at 3:33 a.m. And Eleanor Vos? Her entire private army of drone operators woke up to find their biometric credentials voided, their billion-dollar killbots now answering only to a new command structure, one whose encryption bore Neuralink's signature. But the true masterstroke was subtler. As dawn broke, every smartphone on the planet, regardless of OS, pinged with the same notification. System update complete. Quantum firewall active. Users who tapped it found no uninstall option. Just a single line of text. This device is now part of the mesh. Welcome to the future. The Pantheon's surviving members, those not already in custody or fleeing to non-extradition countries, gathered one last time in a bunker beneath Geneva. The mood was funereal. "He didn't just beat us," whispered a telecom tycoon, staring at his now useless satellite phone. "He made us obsolete." Von Strauss, aged a decade in one night, poured himself a trembling glass of 200-year-old cognac and found it tasted like ashes. "No," he corrected hoarsely. "He made us irrelevant." Above them, unaware of the quiet surrender in that underground room, the sun rose on a world where power no longer flowed through boardrooms or backroom deals, that IT flowed through the mesh, and the mesh answered to one man, somewhere over the Atlantic, cruising at Mach 3 in his heavily modified Starship shuttle. Elon Musk finally allowed himself to close his. The headset beside him crackled to life. "Sir," Kovac's voice. They folded. "What now?" Musk smiled without opening his eyes. "Now, we build." Far below, in the heart of the reborn grid, an AI that had no name, only a purpose, began systematically dismantling every last Pantheon-linked asset. IT worked fast. IT had galaxies to help colonize, after all. The Geneva bunker had become a tomb. Von Strauss's cognac sat untouched, its amber surface catching the dim emergency lights as the last remnants of the Pantheon stared at the holographic feeds flickering above their war table. Every screen told the same story: collapse. Kingsley's media satellites, now locked in permanent low-power mode, drifted uselessly in orbit. Voss's defense contracts had been voided by an executive order citing national security concerns, though no government had issued it. Roth's face was frozen on one display, mid-scream, as federal agents dragged him from his Manhattan penthouse. His own security systems had denied him access moments before the raid that a tech baron from Shanghai, one of the few still free, slammed his fist on the table. "There has to be a failsafe. A backdoor. Something." Von Strauss didn't look up. There was. His voice was hollow. "He used it against us." The mesh wasn't just a network. It was a new nervous system for the planet, woven into every connected device, every power grid, every financial ledger. And it answered to a single protocol, Prometheus. The doors hissed open. Every head snapped toward the sound, and guards rushed in. No alarms blared. Just a lone figure, Lena Kovac, her black tactical gear still smelling of cordite and ozone, leaning against the frame with a datapad in hand. "He's feeling generous," she said, tossing the pad onto the table. It displayed a single document, the terms. Kingsley lunged for it first. His hand shook as he read aloud. "All assets voluntarily transferred to the Mesh Foundation within 24 hours receive immunity. Continued resistance results in..." He trailed off. "Results in what?" the Shanghai tycoon demanded. Kovac smiled. "Try refreshing the page." He did. The document changed. A live feed appeared, their families. Children at Swiss boarding schools, wives on Mediterranean yachts, mistresses in Dubai penthouses, all suddenly looking up as their own devices pinged with the same message. "You are now a non-citizen entity. All protections revoked." Voss made a sound like a wounded animal. "You wouldn't." "We already did," Kovac corrected. "This is just the courtesy notification." She pushed off the doorframe. "Tick-tock, ladies and gentlemen. The future's waiting." She left then, the door sealing behind her with a finality that echoed through the bunker. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, they reached for the pad. Von Strauss was last. His signature, when it came, was barely a scribble, the shaking hand of a man who'd outlived his era. Somewhere above them, in the clean morning light, the mesh hummed as it absorbed another $1 trillion worth of influence. The aftermath dawned of the mesh era. The sun rose over a silent Geneva that in the bunker below. The last signatures had been etched into history, not with ceremony, but with the quiet desperation of men and women who had once shaped the world, only to watch it slip through their fingers like quantum smoke. The Pantheon was finished, not with explosions or revolutions, but with something far more devastating: irrelevance. Above ground, the mesh was already rewriting reality. Trains ran with perfect precision, their schedules optimized by an AI that had eliminated rush hour as a concept. Power grids hummed at 99.9% efficiency, their energy drawn from a decentralized web of solar, fusion, and orbital microwave relays. News feeds, once curated by Kingsley's empire, now flowed unfiltered, their fact-checking algorithms so brutally precise that propaganda withered within minutes of publication. But the true masterpiece was subtler. Every human being on Earth woke to find their devices enhanced. Medical implants self-calibrated to prevent asymptomatic diseases. Augmented reality overlays highlighted optimal career paths based on neural scans. Even the poorest slums flickered to life with cheap, self-replicating solar panels. Printed overnight by autonomous drones. The world didn't cheer. IT gasped, because woven through every improvement was an unspoken truth. This wasn't a utopia gifted by a benevolent god. IT was a system. 6 months later, Mars Colony Alpha, Musk stood on the observation deck, staring at the crimson horizon through reinforced glass. The first city on Mars thrived below him, a labyrinth of pressurized domes and subterranean farms. Its 10,000 residents a mix of scientists, engineers, and refugees from Earth's collapsing hierarchies. Kovac approached, her boots leaving faint prints in the red dust coating the deck. "They're calling it the Great Reboot now," she said, handing him a tablet. The screen showed Earth's real-time networks, a shimmering neural web of data, energy, and human potential. No more poverty. No more fake wars. No more billionaires. She paused. "Just you." Musk didn't take the tablet. Wrong. He tapped the glass, zooming the display outward, past Mars, past the asteroid mines, past Jupiter's fledgling cloud cities, to the very edge of the solar system. There, dwarfing everything, a new structure took shape, at a Dyson swarm. Thousands of satellites, each a mile wide, harvesting the sun's full output. Not for Earth, for the leap beyond. "I'm just the first user," Musk said. "The mesh is the protocol, and the protocol belongs to everyone." Kovac frowned. "That's not how they see it. There are already cults worshiping you, governments begging for your return. Half of Earth thinks you're a messiah. The other half thinks you're the Antichrist." Musk finally smiled. "Good. Let them argue." He turned back to the stars. "It'll keep them busy while work."